mirror and be like, what do I do now? Feeling alone. They're both hot. It would be like, yes, I'd accept it. Hi, my name is Caitlin, and if you're new, welcome to my little corner of the world. So today we are going to be going over every single physical book on my TBR. I have no idea how many it actually is, but I kind of don't want to waste any more time because I feel like this is going to be quite a long video in a way, maybe. So let's get right into it. We're going to start out with a series that I'm actually actively avoiding because I heard it has a cheating trope. I feel like this is one of everyone's main reasons why they don't read this book, and that's Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I have heard good things about this book, don't get me wrong. However, there's just something about the cheating trope that just isn't for me. And I've heard that the main male character is extremely unlikable. So I've also heard that if you don't like this one, that you might like the next book, which is, I think, Daisy Hates. So maybe I'll read this book and be like, okay, I'll give the second one a try. But until then, this will stay on my TBR for now. Okay, so this next one, I have no idea why, I haven't read it. I guess it's just not something I want to pick up currently, and that's Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. I've heard this is a super cute story. I've also heard that it's YA, which I think is why I'm avoiding it in a way, because I can't lie, I am a girly who loves some good smut in a romance book, so I've heard this one's YA, therefore there is none. So, but I think I just need to get over that and just read the damn book, because I've heard really good things about this book. And she also has another series, and I think it's like Get a Life, Danny Brown, Chloe Brown, Sisters. I've heard it's Sisters, and I feel like if I don't maybe enjoy this one, I'll give that series a try. But I've heard really good things about this author, so I'm hoping to get to this one soon. Next one we have is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. The only reason I haven't read this one is because I don't have the whole series, and I think I'm nervous that I'm gonna really like this series and then I'll feel the pressure to go buy, what is it, the other 3 books or 2 or 3 books that are in this series. So I think it's just, that's why I've avoided it. I just don't have the other books yet. But I do want to know what it feels like to inherit the $46.2 billion. I wouldn't even know where to start. I literally would look in the mirror and be like, what do I do now? But yeah, so maybe eventually I'll get around to reading this series. Maybe once I get like the second one, then I'll read this one, and if I like it, then I know that I have the second one just right there to really fill in the void of whatever I feel at the end of this one. I have no exciting reason why I haven't read this one other than simply I just bought it. If you watched my last video, this was included in a book haul, and that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Heron Blake. I haven't got around to it because I literally just got it. I don't know when I'll get around to it. Hopefully in February is my plan, because I've heard this is a really good book. So, but this one's also a series of, I think it's like the friend group, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that's all I got on this one. Next one was bought wholly and solely for the cover. Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. As far as I'm aware, this is about like a wedding planner and a florist, and I think he's a florist and she's a wedding planner, and I think this is a second chance romance. I have heard mixed reviews on this book though, and I think that's what's been holding me back, and also just the whole bought it because of the cover thing. I am a girl. If you've watched any of my other videos, we have learned that the cover is all that I need to know what it looks like to want to buy a book. That's probably like 90% of what the reason is on the books I'm gonna show you. But I've heard good things, I've also heard bad things, so it's like a good middle. So hopefully I get around to this one soon. I don't really have a timeline of when I want to read this one. It's kind of just like, maybe if I want to pick it up, I'll pick it up, you know? This next one is only on my TBR because I didn't know there was a book that came before it, and that's Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I heard it's like interconnected, so you don't really have to read When in Rome by her, but they say, I think she's the sister of the main character from When in Rome. So I feel like, and they said that the couple from the first book is like heavily mentioned in this book. So I feel like I just have to read When in Rome first, and I don't have When in Rome. So it shall stay on the TBR until I magically decide to get the urge to buy When in Rome. Don't know when that will happen. Don't know. This one has the exact same reason as Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and that's Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is one that I also just got, and it was featured in my last video. When I'll get around to it, I don't know. I've heard from my friend Emily. She says that this is like the perfect hopeless romantic rom-com, and right now I'm not in the mood for that. I just not in the mood for that yet. Maybe February when it's like, oh, Valentine's Day, and you know, I've heard really good things about this book, so whenever I do get around to reading it, I will be excited. Just right now, currently, the mood that I'm in, it's just not in the mood for feeling alone. Feeling alone, really. That's the truth. Next one on my physical TBR is The Nanny by Lana Ferguson. I also just found out like a couple days before this that Lana Ferguson is now officially in the like Omegaverse, I think, with the whole like wolf thing. Yeah. I also didn't read the back of this book when I bought it. I don't know if I will read this book. This will be one that like if I don't read by like probably like the summertime going into like September of this year, I'll probably end up taking it to a little free library, and that's nothing against this book. I definitely should have read the back. I just don't know if I'm interested in reading about, because it just doesn't sound interesting, okay? It doesn't sound like my cup of tea. Maybe I'll give it its fair shot, and maybe like watch, I'll read this book and it'll be like one of my favorites. I don't know, but I've heard the spice is really good in this one. So this next one, you guessed it, I bought it because of the cover. I know that it's technically like real people on the cover, and I usually get the ick, but there's just something about this one that just, I don't get the ick. I love the cover. I've also heard the spice in this one, like The Nanny, is I blush easily, so maybe this one will make me blush like, I don't even know like what, but it'll make me blush really easily. So I've heard really good things about this book, and obviously they're roommates, and I mean, he's kind of hot. Who wouldn't want to be his roommate? I would. Sign me up. I'll be the roommate. Switch out her for me. I don't know, maybe he's like a total ick, and I'll be like, ooh, maybe not. But we'll find out. Maybe like February, March, because this has like hearts all over it and stuff, so it's like, oh, February. I don't know. This next one, I know that I'm reading this book soon because I read another book by her literally like 2 days ago, and how do you know that feeling when it's like not a 5-star read, but it's like it's a 5-star read? You know what I'm talking about? No? Okay. Anyway, so we have this 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This book I read, let me get it. I read The Dead Romantics by her. I picked this one up really randomly like 2 or 3 days ago. Loved it. I did not love it at first. It was really slow, but the ending and just like the vibes, the banter, it was there. It was so strong. I loved it. So I decided that I'm gonna read this one super soon because I just love her writing, and I love the magical realism aspects of it, and I've heard really, really, really good things about this book. And also the nickname in this book, it's not something I would typically like, but the context that I've seen it in, I loved it. So we're gonna get around to this one really soon. Just like Better Than the Movies and Delilah Green Doesn't Care, Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Leese is the same reason, just got in a book haul, so haven't really had time to get around to it yet. But they're both hot. I said this in my last video, but they're hot. The glasses, okay. Anyway, so I've just heard really good things about this book. I think the one I want to read is, I think it's her sister. It's the Wilmot, this is like the Wilmot series or something like that. Don't hold it against me. But the one about her sister sounds really fun and cute. So, but I've heard this one's also really fun and cute. So, like I said, they're hot. I mean, hello. Okay. Anyway, this next one, I actually had the old cover copy of this one, or like I had like a different copy of this one like 2 years ago. Gave it away because I think I was just like 17 and I was like, I didn't really care, you know, like I don't hold that against me. I didn't care in the best way possible. However, now that I'm 20, anyway, that was not exciting. Okay, anyway, Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I heard this is a second chance romance, which, as I've kind of mentioned, I'm getting more into. Like, I'm kind of liking the idea of it. I've heard good things about this book, and now that I feel like I'm older, now that I'm like older, I feel like I will appreciate this book more. So I'm hoping to get around to this one. I feel like this is maybe like a cozy summer read, cozy fall read. I don't know, someone tell me. I want to read it like when the vibes are perfect, you know? But I live in Florida, so cozy fall is not quite vibes we get from here, but I'll do my best. If it's a cozy summer read, great, because it's literally always summer in Florida. These next two, I am strictly holding off until summer because I feel like they just won't hit the same until like May, June, July, August, and that are both Emily Henry books. We have People We Meet on Vacation and Book Lovers. I've heard better things about Book Lovers than I have about People We Meet on Vacation. Specifically, once again, Sarah Crowley, she reread this book, if I remember correctly, and she absolutely loved it. I haven't heard the greatest things on this one, but I'll give them both their fair shot because I really do want to find out if Emily Henry is like a writer for me, like if she like is in a writing style that I would enjoy, because I thought I wouldn't enjoy Ashley Poston's writing and then I loved it, so I feel like I just got to give everyone their fair shot. So the next three books that I have, I think I'm going to do a video just because I've never read any of her books and I want to give them like all their own fair shot. And that is Ali Hazelwood books, specifically The Love Hypothesis, Love on the Brain, and Love Theoretically by her. I've heard this is a lot of people's favorites in the series. And then like these two are kind of, but let me know if you want me to do like a reading vlog of like reading Ali Hazelwood for a week, because I really want to get around to these books. But I am nervous because I've heard it's kind of Wattpad-y style writing, and that's just 13-year-old Katelynn would be like, yes, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. But let me know if you want me to read these three in like a cute little reading vlog, because I think it could be fun. Next up, we have The Long Game by Elena Armas. I just know that they're both soccer coaches and there's like kids involved, like the banter of the kids I've heard is like super funny with them. Why did I buy it? I kind of like The Spanish Love Deception, but that was also 2 years ago when I hadn't read anything, so I don't know if that's a fair calculation of if I actually like that book. But I'm gonna give her writing another try, I guess. I'm kind of going in blind. I feel like in a way I've never read an Elena Armas book, even though I've read The Spanish Love Deception, but I want to give this one a shot. I've heard good things, I've heard bad things, I've heard it was okay, I've heard I DNF'd it, I've heard it was a 5-star. So I guess we'll just have to find out on our own. Next one I've put off because I really enjoyed the first book. Like, I loved the first book. It was like a Roman Empire book for me because the main male character was like Chris Evans. And that was all I needed at the time when I read it. And I remember absolutely devouring the first book. So I'm nervous, but X's and O's by Amy Leah. The first one that I'm talking about is called Set on You by her. Oh my god. That book just did something to me. Like, that changed the trajectory of what, I don't know, but this one I've heard is cute. There's also another one. This is called the Influencer series, if I remember correctly. And there's another one that comes out, I believe, next month called The Catch. I don't know if I'll read that one. I think I'll read this one first, gauge if I like it, and then go from there. But all I know is like the cover's super cute. Like, they look so sweet. And he has a tattoo. I just love a man with tattoos. It's just, I need to stop. But a man with tattoos, yep. Anyway, these next two I think are technically a duology, like they're interconnected. And I've also never read any of her books, and that is It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I have no idea how these will make me feel. All I know is that I was told to read them in the summer specifically. So I guess I'm gonna be booked and busy May, June, and July. The amount of, I feel like, summer reads that I have is actually kind of unnecessary, but I've heard good things about this book. Things about this one. So summertime will come around and I guess I will finally read these. This has been on my TBR for literally, I think, 2 years. It is kind of busted up, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's gone through a lot. It's been in my old house, my new house. She's been everywhere. She's a traveling girly. But yeah, so we'll get around to these. This one, you guessed it, the cover, and that is Ruby Spencer's Whiskey Year. That man, tell me it does not, I'm gonna hold it nice and close for you. Tell me that man does not look like Cassian. Like, does he not give Cassian vibes with that little man bun? And I think he's Scottish. Oh my god. Men with tattoos, men with accents, they check every box. the cover. I saw a man with man bun and I was like, ooh, I need it. So I bought it. It was on Book Outlet. It was like $4. Okay, leave me alone. Leave me alone. This last one, if you didn't pick up on it, I'm kind of showing like all my romance books first, and then like we'll move on to like fantasy books that I have. This one, I don't know if it categorizes as a romance. I think it is. I guess it technically is. It's just a lot of emotional trauma that follows along with the romance. And that is Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. I read Binding 13 in the beginning of this year. It was like one of my first reads of January. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for this book. Like, I've tried reading a chapter of this and I'm like, I literally can't handle this right now. I can't. So I want to get to this one by the end of January. Do I think it will happen? No, because I literally cried reading the first 3 pages of this one. Although, what I am excited for, honestly, and I know that I will read it without an ounce of, what's the word? An ounce of setback, is Taming 7. Because Gibbsy, I would do anything for that man, okay? So, but the emotional damage that you have to go through in this one to get to Taming 7, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I'll read it eventually. Eventually. The next ones are kind of like my miscellaneous books. Like, I kind of don't know why, like what they're about really, or I do and I've just avoided them. So the first one we have is Ace of Spades. I've heard this one's like Gossip Girl with like a little bit of mystery, and like I looked at this once at Barnes & Noble and my friend had a copy, so she gave it to me, but I didn't even read the synopsis when I was in Barnes & Noble, but it's on my TBR. Don't know when I'll get to it. That same friend, we also went to a Little Free Library like 3 weeks ago, and she saw this book sitting in the Little Free Library and she was like, you have to get it. And I was like, okay. And that's Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, didn't really like it. Kind of scared to say that. And then I read Daisy Jones and the Six, also did not really like it. But apparently this one is like her good one. Oh, that sounds horrible. I'm giving her one more shot. Let's just put it that way. This book is a literal jump scare for me. I read 50% of it and then DNF'd it. Really, honestly, like it just wasn't something I wanted to read, and I don't know if I'll go back to it. No words. Kind of scary just looking at it. It's also really big, and for what? I'm sorry, but for what? I tried reading this on Kindle, I tried reading this the physical copy. I just think I don't like this. And that's fine, because it's Haunting Adeline. This one I do kind of want to read soon, but I've heard that in the very beginning, like we find out, well, I think it says it in the synopsis, but the very beginning is apparently like a huge trigger warning because of what happens and like what leads to like what the story's about. This is also one that kind of scares me a little bit. Like, it is a small book, it is a tiny girl, but I'm putting it off. I don't know when I'll read this. Like I said, these books are kind of miscellaneous for me. Like, don't know when I'll read them, but I'll get around to them at some point, eventually. This one's in the pile, but it's not technically miscellaneous. I just don't know whether to categorize it as like a romance or something else. And that's Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. Yoon, I don't know how to say it. But this one, the reason I haven't read it is I literally just bought it. So I will get to this one eventually. It kind of gives, I've never watched the movie, but it gives like, is it 6 feet apart or 5 feet apart? It kind of gives that vibe. That's what I'm getting. Hopefully I'm wrong or right. I don't know. I have seen so many people reading this book that I trust and follow, like BookTok or BookTubers, who usually don't have like visceral reactions to books, or like even like if it is emotional, they're like, yeah, I cried like a little bit, but no biggie. But when I see them reading this book, they're literally in tears and like snot running down their nose. So I don't know when I'll read this one, but I want to. A Little Life. This is also a big book. This is like 700 and something pages. Yeah, this is one I don't know when I'll read it. I think I have to be kind of, I don't know what I have to be in the mood for to want to read this book. I guess emotional damage. So I guess I'll read this one and Keeping 13 at the same time, I guess, because the emotional damage that apparently both these two inflict. I know for a fact I'm going to read this one soon because I have started to see more and more on this book, and that is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. This was one I put off. I made like a TikTok a while back ago talking about like why I avoided this one. It's just the topics that are discussed in it. I don't know if I'm ready to read about it. But I've heard that like, I believe the bank, yeah, Eden, like I've heard her story in the second book, like it wraps up so beautifully for her. So I think that is what might compel me to pick this one up sooner, only because like I want to see a character get their happy ending, and I feel like Eden truly deserves it. I haven't even read this book, but I just know she deserves it. You know, she just deserves her happy ending. Period. Last two, I'm gonna read soon because I want to get this series done, and that's about it. And that is All In and Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I have heard good things about this one, but I've heard better things about like the last book in the series. I read Killer Instinct and it wasn't my favorite, other than like the characters. Like it was very character heavy for me personally, like that's why I kept reading it. Plot wise, don't ask, don't know. But I've heard good things about like the last two books in the series. I liked that in the third one they're in Vegas, and I think that's what will make me pick this up even sooner. So hopefully I get around to these so I can finish the series. So now we're gonna get into all of the fantasy romance books that I have on my TBR. Starting out really strong, we have Trial of the Sun Queen and Rule of the Aurora King. I heard really good things about this duology. I think it's just like I need to just pick it up and read it. You know, like you know what I'm talking about. And I think this series is one of them. I think there's gonna be a third book if I'm not mistaken. But I've heard really like specifically about this first one, like I've heard it's super good. And so I hope to get around to it really soon. This next one I'm actively avoiding because if I do like it, I don't have the rest of the series and that will stress me out. And that's Shatter Me. I am starting to see more and more on this series in terms of the main male character and why am I falling for a man who's literally 5'9" and blonde. The world may never know. But this is on my TBR for now. I don't know when I'll get around to this one. Maybe when I'm off my book buying ban and I have the money to go buy like the second or third book. If I really like the series, I think that's when I'll read it. But for now, it will stay on the TBR. This next one, this is another one my friend gave me because you guessed it. I liked the cover and she was like, have it. This is Bonecryer's Moon by Catherine Purdy. The cover. No idea what this book is about. But I saw pretty people on the cover and I was like, oh, I love it. That's all I got. This next one, I heard that I would literally fall for a like man named Death. But I haven't read it yet because I just bought it. And that's Belladonna by Adeline Grace. The fan art for this series, I love it. I think this is a gothic fantasy and there's just something about that sounds fun. Like I want in. Let me in. Next one, once again, the cover. Cast of Firelight by Dina Swift. They're pretty. They're both heirs to like different royal places. I think she's a witch, he's a wizard. Sounds fun. Sounds like I could be hooked in. So I'll read this one soon. This next one, as far as I'm aware, it's a completed duology, or there will be like a third one and it's like a completed trilogy. And that's We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars. So I bought these on Book Outlet. Why? I saw a few TikToks about it, okay? Let's be honest. I want to read this one soon, but I think this is kind of like a summer read if I'm not mistaken. So this one will also be alongside every other summer book on my TBR, May, June, July. So, but I've heard really good things about this series. This book was an impulse purchase. I went to Barnes & Noble and I wanted to buy a book. So I bought this one, Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. Oh my god. Baldry. That's what I'm gonna go with. They're cute. I love them. I love that she's pink, he's green. I know that he opens a cafe. It was an impulse buy. It was, I need a book, so I bought a book. Yeah. This one is kind of like Shatter Me, where I don't know when I'll get around to it because I'm told so many different things in terms of like, read this series first, read the other series first. I've read 5 chapters of this one, softly DNF'd it. I'll get back around to it eventually. And that's Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I think I would enjoy this series if I really like I don't don't mean it in that way. But like if I really like focused on it, like I don't know, I read 5 chapters and I was like, I'll get around to it. But I want to give this and Shatter Me like its fair shots, because I feel like these are like the TikTok, like for me personally, like these are like the book talk books, you know? I'll get around to them. So don't hate me. I read the first 5 chapters and I was like, okay, but we'll get around to it. Next up, we have the first 2 books in the series. I don't have the third simply because they weren't selling it in paperback, only in hardcover, and I can't rock with having like 2 paperbacks in a hardcover. But that's Kingdom of the Wicked and Kingdom of the Cursed by Karen Maniscalco. These are another ones where I've started to see fan art about the characters in, I guess, these 3 books, or just this one, I don't know yet. But they're pretty, and I love them already. I don't know anything about them, but I love them. That's all I got. This one follows that Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy, and that is Throne of the Fallen, also by Karen Maniscalco. I bought this one first, and then was told you have to read that series first. I've heard, well, not heard, I've seen some of those like pages from blah 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 blah. The smut. Ooh. I would do anything. That's all that piqued my interest. So I went to Barnes & Noble and I picked it up because why not? That's what I've got. I think I'll really enjoy this book. I feel like this will be a top read for me when I get around to it. I just have to read the Kingdom of the Wicked series first. Next one, I read the first book, really enjoyed it. I just haven't gotten around to this one yet. I don't know when I will. I kind of am not ready to give up these characters yet, so I think that's why I'm putting it off. And that's Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. Jesus. Anyway, so yeah, I think I just have like an attachment that I didn't realize I had to the characters. So finishing this book, I think I'm not ready for that. So we're gonna hold off on reading this one for a little bit. This will be one that I pick up, I think, at random when I'm like, okay, let me just finish the damn series and I read it, you know? This next one, once again, I bought it because of the cover, and that's An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I know that she's an artist. That's about it. Cover was pretty. That's all I got. And I'm okay with that. I find no problem with buying books because of the cover. Like, what I read about reviews on this book, everyone really liked it, and it's also really short. Like, it's literally it's literally 300 pages on the dot, so I feel like it's a quick read whenever I do get around to it. Following Margaret Rogerson, this was the first book that I bought from her, and it's Sorcery of Thorns, and then the little novella Mysteries of Thorn Manor. I have heard amazing things about this book. Like, I've literally seen people getting tattoos for this book. Like, it's that good. I've heard the female main character is really likable, and like you just want her to like do really good and just like throughout this book, so I'm excited. And apparently that's her love interest. Anyway, and she's hot too. That's all it tells me. Okay, that's it. This one will come as literally no shock to anyone. I think I'm reading this next month though for book club, because we're all in like agreeing on that we want to read this book, and that's Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This one doesn't really need an explanation. I feel like it kind of speaks for itself. Like, I want to read it because I've heard it's really, really, really good. So, and I think I'm getting around to it soon, so I'll understand what everyone is talking about. I haven't seen any spoilers on this book, and that's my favorite part of it, is that I haven't. I feel like most of the time when a book is like highly anticipated like this, like you see spoilers no matter what, but for this one I genuinely have not seen any, or if I have, I've avoided them. So I'm excited to like be surprised by this book in a way, and I've heard the 2 main characters are like, their banter is what I've heard is the best part. I heard with this one, Found Family, it's like the embodiment of it. That's 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. My friend suggested this book to me, so I bought it. I want to get around to this one soon. I don't know if I will though, only because there is a second book, and like I said, I'm on a book buying ban, so we'll get around to it. And I've heard amazing things about this series. She also has another book called Ninth House that I'm actively avoiding. I'm not gonna lie to you, because it scares me. That's it. It just scares me. But this series doesn't. I'm skipping Shadow and Bone because I think that'll be like too YAE for me. And this one's YA as well, but I think it's just like a little bit more like, you know, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know where I'm going with that. But I've heard really good things about this book. This one I heard involves tarot cards, and that was really all I needed to hear to like buy it. I also have 2 book club besties that really enjoy this book, so I think I'll really enjoy it because I feel like we have similar tastes in like fantasy books specifically. So One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. Like I said, tarot cards, that's about all I had. And apparently like the main like male character, like he was like talks in her head or something like that. I wouldn't say that I would accept it, but I'd accept it. That's it. I read another book by this author in, I believe, December. It was for a December book club pick, and it was not my favorite style of writing, or I honestly in a way felt stupid reading it. I don't know if that's ever happened, but like it happens to me sometimes when I'm reading specifically fantasy books and I'm like, wait, I don't know what the hell's going on. That happened with that book. And then when I talked about it to a friend who's read this book I'm about to show, she said that there's a lot of similarities between the two. So I don't know if I will read this book, but maybe it'll be like one that I want to read just to find out if I don't like it. And that's from Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Like I said, she said that I read Fall of Ruin and Wrath, and apparently it's super similar to this book. Like they have kind of the same elements, and I didn't really like that one. So I don't know when I'm gonna get around to this, but maybe I'll read this one and like it a lot more. I guess we'll have to find out. These last 6 are gonna all be from the same author, and if you could take just a wild guess. Did you guess? We have the last 4 books in the Throne of Glass series. I want to finish this series solely because I want to read the 3rd Crescent City book, and but these are just some chunky, like, I don't know if you like, these are some thick books. I'm currently like technically on Queen of Shadows. I'm like 20 pages in. I can't explain much, don't know much yet, but I am excited to finish the series. I really am. Like, just to say that I finished it at this point, because I started it back in October, so it's been a hot minute since I've like regrouped back to this series, but I'm hoping to like finish it soon and then move on to the Crescent City series because I think I'll enjoy that one more than this one. Like I said, these last 2 books follow the same author from those 4, and that is the Crescent City books, House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath. These are also some big books, and I've heard the 3rd one's like 980 pages. Okay, will I read it? Yeah. I think I will enjoy this series more than Throne of Glass. Personally, like, I loved ACOTAR, but I think transitioning from ACOTAR to Throne of Glass really, I don't know how to really explain it other than like it was just a hard transition because I was so used to, like, I feel like with ACOTAR it was like constant. With Throne of Glass it's like a lot of lead up, and I feel like I'm finally at Queen of Shadows where like that lead up finally like pays off in a way. I just need to get around to it, you know. But you know, these 2 I've heard it's kind of like, not like ACOTAR, but just in terms of like the action, I've heard there's like 100 pages of world building in this one. That scares me, but we'll get past that. But I am excited to get to the series only because I've seen a spoiler for this one. It makes me excited. And that's about it. And then the 3rd one comes out at the end of January, so I'm hoping to get around to finishing this series really soon. So those are all of the books on my physical TBR. I will put a number somewhere around here with how much it ended up being. When I see that number, I'll probably want to cry because I'll be like, how the hell did I get that many books in a short span of time, to be honest? I don't know, but I am hoping to, my goal for this year genuinely is to get through every physical book on my TBR. So during this year, I do want to read at least a good chunk of books on this TBR, and I think I can. So yeah, if you guys really enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, comment, like, whatever you want to do. I'd really appreciate it. So that's all I got for you all. So bye.